So I'm sure by now we've all heard about the horrific elementary school shooting at Robb Elementary in Uvalde, Texas, a few days ago. And over 20 people were killed, including children, including teachers. Absolutely horrific. The third deadliest school shooting ever in U.S. history, behind Virginia Tech and Sandy Hook. And so now, obviously, you have all these Republican politicians coming out saying, "We are sending our thoughts and prayers to you," while they are going to do absolutely nothing to change the gun laws surrounding this. They are offering solutions to this problem. Like, for instance, they say they want to tackle mental health. Okay. Well, if you want to tackle mental health, okay, I can imagine that you'll be supporting Medicare for all pretty soon. Oh, wait, no, you're not going to do that, even though that would include mental health care coverage, but you're not going to do that because it'll piss off your insurance industry donors. Okay, fair enough. And you definitely won't be supporting red flag laws. I know Texas, they said they were going to do red flag laws after the El Paso school shooting, but as you would imagine, they didn't do it. And now, while it's been seen as a leading bipartisan option in the Senate, yeah, needless to say, I'll believe it when I see it. And we know that this shooter had a pretty bad history. If there were red flag laws, let's be honest, this shooter probably would not have been able to get his gun. And of course, the narrative from the right is the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun like this guy is a good guy with a gun. Except you had good guys with guns, and this is what happened. And in Florida, after Parkland, the state legislature passed a bill that would increase the number of armed guards in schools, and this is what it led to. Quote, "There was little consistent evidence that the presence of law enforcement decreased the number of behavioral incidents occurring, indicating that school-based law enforcement were not necessarily making schools safer. Furthermore, the number of police officers in Florida schools was more than school nurses, social workers, and psychologists." I don't know how anybody could really defend that. Like, are we just going to be okay with that? But the bottom line is this. The problem isn't more armed guards. The problem isn't we need to tackle mental health. I mean, tackling mental health might be a good idea, but you guys have absolutely no indication of doing anything about it. The problem, it's Occam's razor. The problem is the fact that the U.S. has literally more guns than people. The United States has more than twice the number of guns per 100 people than any other country, data from the Small Arms Survey show, with 120.5 firearms per 100 residents. That means there are more guns in the United States than people. And even in the Supreme Court case of DC v. Heller, which, if you want an explanation on that, there's a good video by a YouTuber, Mr. Beat, which I'll put in the YouTube card. This was a case where the conservative court essentially rewrote the Second Amendment, and which is hilarious because they always cry and moan about judicial activism when they participate in it several times themselves. But even here, even when they essentially expanded the Second Amendment and ruled that it meant something that it had never been ruled before, they still said it was not limitless. So there are definitely reasonable regulations that could be done, like background checks, red flag laws. But the point of this video isn't necessarily to argue why those are good, because over 90% of Americans support background checks. So I really don't feel the need to argue it because I'm not going to change your mind on it. But the point of this video is to talk about what the hell is there to do at this point to get them implemented. Didn't happen after Sandy Hook. Didn't happen after Parkland. It is probably not going to happen after this. Well, I was talking with my mom about this the other day, and she suggested that the best way to make this happen is a nationwide teacher strike. And I gotta be honest, I am totally on board with this idea. A nationwide teacher strike where teachers don't show up. They essentially grind the education system to a halt until there is action on gun reform. I posed this question on Twitter, where the overwhelming majority of my followers agreed with me on this. However, some arguments against it include that conservatives don't care about teachers and the education anyway, like they're on a crusade to defund the public education system. Fair enough, but back in 2018, there was a wave of teacher strikes in a bunch of red states, and this was what happened. Thousands of teachers marched in Oklahoma and Kentucky, shuttering schools and demanding that Republican-controlled legislators vote to increase their pay. The demonstrations came on the heels of a 9-day strike in West Virginia, where teachers scored a 5% pay raise, and protests in Arizona last week, where teachers wore red and gathered at the state capitol to demand a much larger 20% pay increase. Teachers in Oklahoma received a pay raise when Governor Mary Fallin signed legislation last week hiking their salary as much as $6,100 a year, but they are still seeking a bigger across-the-board $10,000 raise. Average teacher salaries in Oklahoma were lower than all but one other state before the recent hike. So obviously this was for a different reason. This was for pay raises, not gun reform. Still, the fact that in red states that are actively hostile to public education and teachers' unions, these teachers are still able to strike, and they were able to win. And if there is a nationwide strike, with teachers all across the country striking at the same time, then that will definitely send a message, and it's the only thing that has a chance in hell, really, of working. Now, with the school year coming to a close, it's the end of May, so some schools are out by now, some schools are getting out in a few weeks. There's obviously not really much time to do it for the rest of the year, but what could happen is over the summer, teachers' unions, they talk about it, plan, publicize it to build up interest for it. And if by August and September, when schools come back, there is no real action taken, they strike. But I want to know what you all think. Do you think this is a good idea? If so, how do you think it should be approached? And if not, why not? What is your idea? And one last thing, I would be remiss if I let the Democrats off the hook for aiding Henry Cuellar, a Democrat with an A rating from the NRA, in his primary. He looks like he's going to win by less than 200 votes. So, yeah, I've been harping on Republicans this whole time. Yeah, Democrats aren't so exactly innocent on this either. They could be bringing up a gun reform bill to a vote right now, and they're instead going on vacation. Yay, American politics! Oh, let the bad times roll indeed. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Again, I'd love to know what you all think about this. How do you think it should be approached? Leave a comment below, let me know what you think. And if you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe. And if you really enjoy the content I make, consider clicking the link below to support me on Patreon. Check out related videos I have right over here. And I will see everybody when I see you. Have a great holiday weekend, and peace out.